Outdoors, no tackle shop that we had on here a little while ago said it really well. Basically said, well, when you talk about a bigger store like that, if fishing falls out of popularity and all of a sudden their fishing department isn't making a profit anymore, that department now sells clothes and like tennis gear.
Yellow Dog Paddle, Mike Herman, they are starting to book their trips for 2025, especially the trout trips on Round Valley and Merrill Creek. Those trips get booked up hard for spring. So that's obviously a prime time for that fishery, especially May. If you want to go for like a salmon, it's probably more June-ish. Mike will tell you, but if you want a prime date, I would definitely call Yellow Dog Paddle because the spring does get hammered. So I would call Mike Herman as soon as possible. Book your trip for 2025 with Yellow Dog Paddle. Hello and welcome to episode number 87 of the NJ Multi-Species Podcast. I am your host, Joe Santiago. As always, my partner, Crisper Pereira.
That would be me.
There he is, in the flesh, with his bobber mug. Tonight's guest is Greg, I think it's Spudnik is how you say it, Sputnik. He is the owner of Fisherman's headquarters. How do you say it?
Isn't it Cudnik?
Cudnik? I butchered it, whatever. It's Greg. I know he's Greg. Owner of Fisherman's headquarters, one of the bigger tackle shops, saltwater in the state of New Jersey. He's involved in so many different facets, plus a guide service. That's going to be a very long conversation. Chris, we've been ice fishing. We haven't been ice fishing together, but we've been ice fishing separately. Want to talk about ice fishing?
Yeah, I mean, we almost finally have a real ice fishing season. I feel like that's the best way to put it. But it's already. You already have more ice than you've had for most of the time in the last 2 years, at least. There was a couple of days.
I've ice fished more hours this year than the entire last year put together, if you don't count New York trip.
Well, there was a couple of days, I think last year, right, where it got really cold. The ice got really thick in the smaller places. But we still had to deal with the wind.
And then it laid 8 inches of snow on top.
Yeah, it was during the week, I believe. So, like, if you were working during the week, you missed out on it if you didn't take off. And that's why it's like when we get ice here, and I've tried to explain this to people, and we'll go through like the checking the ice maybe next episode. I feel like we'll have time because we're not going to have time this episode. But, like, if you're living in New Jersey right now and you love ice fishing and you're not willing to learn how to check that first early ice, then you need to accept that you might not be ice fishing. Right? Like, and you're one of the guys that you don't like to go on the real early ice. Right? Like, we'll be out there on 2.5, 2 3/4 inch.
I was just always taught.
Good.
I was always taught from one time I was a kid. If the ice is 4, you go on. If it's not 4, you don't go on. It's just in my head. I don't know.
I mean, I would argue that it's more dangerous to just blindly walk out around on ice when someone tells you it's 4 inches than the amount of effort we put into, assessing the ice when it's 2 3/4 inches.
Who are you to assess the ice, though? Are you an ice expert? So, like, how do you assess it?
It's not rocket science, but like I said,
it's possible to have 2 3/4 inch of pure black ice that's much stronger than 2 3/4 of just trash ice.
Obviously, I'm not walking on 2 3/4 of trash ice. That's part of assessing.
Well, it also depends. Listen, we're all hobbits here too. We're not normal-sized humans. Like, most fishermen are probably double our size.
I bring a Sasquatch giant with me when I do.
Well, that's true.
I've already thought about that.
He calls himself a Sasquatch, but he's as skinny as a string bean. Fucking guy will get blown away in the wind.
Yeah, but he's tall. He's like 6'8".
Yeah, he's like 170 pounds.
Let's devote the next half of the next episode with. So we got half the episode be Matt with the hair jigs and that stuff. Well, let's devote the other half to talking about checking the ice and ice safety and stuff like that, and how I guess you and I can argue about checking early ice or waiting for it to get thick.
I don't care about early ice. I just look at the thickness of it.
There's a lot more to it than that, but
I just don't want to fall through it. I don't want to lose my shit. I actually don't even really care if I fall through. I'm pretty confident I'd get out like pretty quick. I don't want like my sled sinking to the bottom of the lake, though. That's what I just don't want to deal with it.
Well,
I'd rather not.
You don't have to bring your sled when you're checking an area. You realize that, right?
The rumor that has me the most nervous right now is we finally, knock on wood, we have some ice, like you said. Now I'm hearing we're not going to be able to get shiners this weekend. You heard anything about this?
I guess Dow's ran out for a time, and we're not sure when they'll get another shipment. I mean, I know other shops still have them.
And I think Dow's is out because they can't get them from the supplier, which I don't know.
Well, I think they all get them from one of two suppliers. If not, I'm pretty sure it's not all the same supplier. I think there's two suppliers.
And Mousie's too. I cannot find Mousie's anywhere except Sporting Life. I saw them at Sporting Life.
No, you didn't. He doesn't have Mousie's. Nobody has Mousie's.
He had them. No,
not this year. Not last year.
Does he have spikes?
He has spikes.
Right,
he has maggots.
Then.
He has wax worms, and he has mealworms.
Why does no one have Mousie's?
So that's a whole big thing. I mean, I couldn't tell you exactly why. All I know is whatever process they use to raise those things or gather them is just shit the bed.
How do the fish in these lakes know what a mousie is, and I don't know what a mousie is?
It's something with the smell they release. I mean,
it really is,
all in
dude.
Huh?
Because I have been sitting there, and you got spikes, you got waxworms, you got mealworms, you got mousies, and they won't hit anything but the mousies.
I feel like I've experienced that same thing. Like I've always wanted the mousies, and now I can't get them. But the maggots worked pretty good for me the other day. I was tipping my tungsten jig with the little colored maggots that Sporting Life has, and I did pretty well on a lake that's not typically good for jigging. I got some nice perch. I had one that was 13 inches, and I had some nice crappie. I had a crappie that was 15.5 inches.
Yeah, I saw that. I had a decent, like, largemouth on my tip-up, and I got to jig a bunch of bluegills with Kevin's new Panoptics, which was really fun. We literally sat in a circle of four of us, me, Katie, Lynn, Kevin, four of us sitting around three holes playing on the one screen, and you could see it was just so cool, just for something to do because the fishing sucked. Chuck Manny came. John Dorn was there for a while. My boss Scott. There was a big group of us. I don't know if it was the full moon or what it was. The fishing wasn't that good though. I mean, we had 25 tip-ups up, and
Chuck's the best though. Like
Chuck's the best. Yeah, I have video of him running for a tip-up that I'm gonna put into slow motion, and it's gonna be epic.
I mean, I put it in the one post, and you can't word it any better. Like, this guy is the best striper fisherman I've ever seen. Nobody catches more giant striped bass than this guy. And he goes ice fishing and catches like a regular size pickerel, and he's ecstatic. Like
Goes
he
nuts.
loves it all. You can't like that's the epitome of.
He was up
like,
there screaming, yelling. Oh, he's the best. He told me. He asked me the other day. He said, "Are you ready? You better start resting up." I said, "For what?" And he goes, "The species challenge, the multi-species challenge." I said, "What? The one from the fall?" He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna break it. We're going for 20." I said, "What do you mean?" "Oh, I've already mapped out the 20 species in my head. We're going to go for 24 hours. That's how much time we have." So he's already planning this 20 species day, 24-hour trip.
I know.
He knows like where he's going to catch the fluke and move. He's already talking about it. This is 9 months away. So,
dude, he wanted to add fresh water to it. He wants to like start at midnight on like a catfish pond and then like drive 80 miles an hour down the parkway to get to the Time Man to start hitting his saltwater plans and then fish until midnight.
It's
like
the
midnight
best.
to midnight. Like one of us is going to die that day.
He's the best. It's just unbelievable. Yeah, he's unbelievable. And he's going to break it too. Like I remember when we had the 13 and I said, "We'll never break this." And then he got to 15. Now he's saying 20 and I believe him. He probably will do it. But yeah, Chuck. So Chuck, I got to go ice fishing with him. The fishing wasn't that good, but yet we still had a good time. Hopefully everyone.
I don't have any ice fishing guests per se lined up for like the entire winter. It's just the way like we got a lot of like cool guests coming up and the schedule just filled up. So let's devote the next episode. You and I can talk ice fishing. Maybe someone else will want to jump on before Matt comes on with the hair jigs or something like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Because I know the rest of this episode is going to be long because I love talking to Greg and he.
Well, it looks like It looks like Greg's ready to come in. Actually.
Yeah, let's get this started because
he's got a lot of Greg in. Fisherman's headquarters. Eddie Mackin's Rippin' Lips fishing trips. Eddie is currently not fishing. Well, he is fishing. I saw him ice fishing with his kids the other day. Eddie doesn't, I don't think, do ice fishing trips, though, yet as for a guide. But he is booking for the 2025 season. We know the Lake Pacon crappie bite gets very good in the very early spring, March, as soon as that first ice is gone, right, Chris? That's when you really want to hit that pan fishing with Eddie Mackin. And also, Eddie Mackin does offer a deal. If you reserve your trip early, he gives you a lower rate on booking the trip. So if you're looking to do a trip this spring or summer on Lake Pacon, I would call Eddie Mackin's Rippin' Lips fishing trips today.
So you're going to get a better date and a lower price. You can't beat that.
Can't beat it. What's your last name?
It's written on the screen there, Joe.
Okay, so we have Greg Cudnik from Fisherman's headquarters, one of the bigger saltwater tackle shops in the state of New Jersey. Been here since the early 60s. So it's a really well-known, pretty much a staple of the NJ tackle world. Greg, welcome to the NJ Multi-Species Podcast for the second time. Welcome back.
Yeah, so thank you.
I was gonna say, are we just gonna pretend that one episode like never happened, like the lost episode, or were we gonna acknowledge it?
He was unfortunately the victim of one of those episodes during that Verizon outage or whatever the hell it was. But all right, this time it's working. So Fisherman's headquarters, we finally have you here.
Well, the first go around was a fun time, so everybody missed out, unfortunately. But
that was your audition. That was your audition. You made it. You're on now, the real one. So I know last time we touched on the Windmills a little bit because you are very involved in that situation. But I know you don't want to spend too much time on that this time, but you have an update for us.
Yeah, I mean, you guys want to talk offshore wind? I'm all about it. I've been fighting offshore wind since the early stages. It's been a number of years back, say 10 years or so. I really got more passionate and more aggressive in fighting it, say the past, 3 to 5 years. Started a group with some other people. Actually, some people found me because they knew I was involved and paying attention to things. And it's grown to a pretty big group. Luckily, we've got a broad support. We've got some politicians that jumped on board and started asking us questions. We wanted to find out more information on things that they didn't know about. And fortunately, we got some lawsuits going. But yeah, I'm with Protect Our Coast NJ, basically out of South Jersey, but we're fighting offshore wind in New Jersey. And I feel that my group and a couple other the groups that popped up really turned the tide, and things are working in our favor right now. Fortunately, we got a change in administration at the federal level that's going to help out. And I think one of these days we're going to get a change at the state level. And I think once that occurs, things are going to be kind of squashed pretty soon. But we'll see how it goes.
Now, you had mentioned that can you guys hear me all right? Because I'm getting some things.
I hear you.
You had mentioned that, like you said, the new administration coming in, and you had some guys on your team that are ready to work. Both sides are ready to work to kind of squash this whole thing. Because I remember you did mention, I forget your exact wording, but you did something along the lines of that you were pretty hopeful that the end was near in a good way. For sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to fire exact question out, but I would say I'm much more hopeful now than I've ever been. One, our lawsuits are funded, staged up, and they're ready. We're already firing them off. There's a number of them from a number of different groups. My group's got a couple, staged up. There's already one that's been filed, or whatever you call the proper protocol there. But I'm not legal committee. I'm more on the fisheries side of things. But yeah, with the change in federal administration there, we're definitely finally not fighting this uphill battle. It's always been state and feds just pouring more and more leases and more turbines down our throats throughout the entire, greater region. And finally, I think we're going to see that's going to slow down or stop or possibly reverse. We'll see where that goes.
All right. Yeah. And the only other thing I want to mention, because like we said, we did talk about this already, even though it kind of got lost in all those problems. But what I really found interesting was, I mentioned to you last time, a lot of guys kind of take the opposite, the opposite side of this. And they kind of go to the oil rigs down in Florida or down the Gulf and stuff like that, and how the fishing on those rigs is great. And I've heard guys argue that, if those structures are out there, it can make the fishing better because now you can fish off that deep sea structure. And I wanted you to, again, just one more time, just because I know most people didn't get to see the last episode. And I wanted you to explain just how flawed that logic kind of is, because you explained it perfectly.
So I don't want to say it's flawed. If someone is a bottom fisherman that is, say, hunting, always researching structure and reef and wrecks, looking for new bottom, that's totally understandable. While you may say, hey, all this new structure is all new fishing spots, which it is, I will not disagree with that. The argument comes, or the fact of the matter comes, are we aggregating the fish, or are we actually multiplying the fish? And my argument is that these turbines will be fish aggregating devices. So what I mean by that is, right now, if we've got open bottom sand and you make an artificial reef, over time, it takes time for those, say, the food chain to start. You first start off with, the small fouling, the growth of, say, barnacles, mussels, say, crabs start showing up. All these critters, the marine creatures, start eating and then pooping, right? And then there's this whole circle of life, and the bigger fish come along, and it goes up and up. Next thing you know, you start seeing some, say, sea bass rolling in, or tog. Maybe there might be good fluke around structure, which I fish structure all the time. I'm always looking for structure. So my argument, and it's something that needs to spend much more time, say, in science with research, is the argument between production versus aggregation. So if you've got a stock of fish, and all of a sudden now this stock of fish is not magically magnified, say 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x, 100x, whatever it is, and now you have all these fish in that stock being the same, aggregating around these turbine bases, anglers are smart, right? We're going to go where the fish are. We're going to go and we're going to find structure and we're going to fish it. We're going to fish it hard. We've got modern technologies and say rods, reels, line, lures, technology speaking with boats, high resolution sonar. You've got trolling motors in the smaller boats. Guys that have bigger boats, they know how to double anchor. They can position a boat with GPS and with skills they've acquired over the years. And, we are very effective fish catchers now more than ever. And management has no handle on those technological advancements that we have in the recreational sector. It's something I brought to the attention of New Jersey State Fisheries. I'm on the advisory boards of some things. And I talked to them about, hey, we need to take a look at tog fishing specifically. And this was 3, 4, 5 years ago. Technology is getting away from the fishery, and we're exploiting the fishery quicker than these fish can come back. But without me getting off topic and talking about what I feel is some issues in the tog fishery, and I saw a while ago, and it just keeps on going down, rolling on, the snowball's just getting bigger and bigger. This topic of the reef effect and offshore wind is when these turbines are in, if they are going in, sea bass get congregated or aggregated around these bases, or tog, say, start getting aggregated on these bases, and people start out fishing and overfishing the stock. We're not all going to say, oh, guys, we can just point it at the windmill guys and say, oh, you guys are going to, fix our problems. The fishery's getting shut down. It's not like we're going to have a bigger quota. Turbine bases, 100 turbines isn't going to make this tog fishing epic, isn't going to make sea bass fishing epic. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen is we're going to outfish the fishery because we're aggregating the fish. Fishing is going to be awesome for a short period of time. And we're never, as recreational anglers, going to give it time to actually go through the whole reef effect process, which may take, from what I've read in some of these different documents, and I could send you a link to one, 5 to 6 years before it's at the climax stage of production. So are they going to put these turbines in and then close them for 5 years? I don't know. Would I be for that? No. I don't want to lose any ground. I don't want to lose any access to anything. These foreign companies are coming in and basically, stealing our backyards. They're going to come in and kind of rape and pillage our bottom, our local waters, and to me it's a total disaster. There's no cooperation ever. There hasn't been with this whole process. They say they're communicating and they're trying to work together, engage stakeholders. It's all hogwash. But if you guys got questions on something, let me have it.
I wanted to go back to what you were saying about the technological advances on the tog fishing, and you said you just explained some of it recently. Are you talking about spot lock specifically, or no?
Well, I mean, yeah. I would say trolling motors with GPS, say spot lock. That's Minn Kota's brand for it. But yeah, trolling motors and small boat, say, positioning systems are somewhat of a new craze in the past 5 to 10 years in the tog fishery. I would say much more so in the past, say, 3 to 5 years. But for sure, management has no handle on the more effective fishing, say, methods that recreational anglers have today compared to 10 years ago. But I would say just as much as spot lock is just like navionics and the freedom of sharing of information and the easy sharing of information that anglers can do today with navionics and, some high resolution sonar, side scan, high def. I mean, I run two transducers in my boat, and I've got a pretty, I guess I dropped 15 grand on electronics, but some of these guys in freshwater boats, with live scope and side scan. I mean, technology in fishing with just sonar is now it's futuristic, right? But going back, say, 5 years, just fishing lines and rods and reels, say, gearing, the rods with technology with higher modulus carbons and more powerful rods, and people making rods specifically for a fishery, and making, say, the popularity of tog jigs took off in the past 5 to 7 years or so. I'd say 10 years ago there was tog jigs around, but not many people fished them. It was all rigs. But to each his own. But all these different things come in and really build up this, what I'd say is an argument for the recreational angler being a much, much more effective and more efficient angler, and that's our abilities to outfish a fishery.
Yeah, and you got some really good points, and like I guess basically what you're saying about the offshore wind, the windmills and stuff, it's just gonna, like you said, kind of aggregate those populations out that way and make it easy. Like obvious, it's an obvious piece of structure. You don't have to know where it is. You don't have to have any information. It's all of a sudden right there, very obvious. If guys can fish it, I can see it's just right up the same avenue as all this technology. Well, what do you think would be the answer to that, though? I mean, I always kind of thought whatever came along technological wise and all that, I always thought the best answer was that if all the anglers, like as a group, just took on more of a catch and release of the bigger fish type of mentality. But I know that's a lot to ask. And I would never say, I would never shame someone for keeping a fish or anything like that. I think everyone should be able to do, you know, what's legal, what they want to do. Um, but on the other hand, I do think that the most important way to fight all these technological advances, since the regulations, one, aren't gonna advance to keep up with them, like you said, and I don't know if I want to put that in their control anyway. But I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is there an answer? Is there a right answer? I don't know.
It's a slippery slope. I mean, I don't know if I want to answer on the technology of offshore wind, because offshore wind is just a disaster. It's so expensive, and it's just they put the cart so far before the horse. It's everything's backwards now that they're putting steel in the water up north. They're starting to do some research, which is just it's a disaster. But to talk about, like, kind of my I probably have it on my computer here somewhere. The letter I gave to the state 3 or 4 years ago I go to all the fishery meetings. At least I try to go to every one. Was just to let them know that there's a lot more pressure. TOG became much more popular in the past, say, decade than it was previous. Technology, like I said, more people are fishing, and also the say new tackles. I mean, what my idea would be is it's a slow growing fish, right? TOG are very slow growing. And some people, I've read some stuff come out of Virginia. I think it was VIMS is a science area down there in Virginia. They did a thing where they were tagging some fish on some structure and seeing where they go. And I tag a lot with Gray's Fish Tag. I've actually got a stack of tags right here that I still got to put in.
For the TOG?
Some of these are TOG. Yeah. I mean, I've got, cool. This is the first one's a 42.5-inch striped bass that I tagged that was previously tagged. You'll see there's like a little tag up in the corner.
I've always heard a lot of the tag, like they do a lot of tagging research with the striped bass. So our buddy Chuck Manny helps a lot with that. And
Chuck does this. He does the Gray's Fish Tag.
Yeah.
Because I do some of those. That there's a Gray's Fish Tag up there in Sandy Hook that same thing he does. I'm on a different boat. I'm with Frank Crisatelli. He's on his own boat. But I tagged some TOG. I tagged a good amount of TOG, and I actually had fish that were tagged last January, not basically a year ago, that were caught that April, only 4 months after I tagged them. And I tagged these fish off of LBI, Long Beach Island, which is where I'm at, Central Jersey coast here, and they were actually caught off of Ocean City and Wildwood, some of the structure down there. So a lot of people say, oh, these fish are caught at say Rec 1, and they always live at Rec 1. They never go to another wreck. And I always thought, oh, maybe they move around on the actual, say, reef site if you're fishing at one of the state reefs. And I figured, oh, maybe they go from a bigger piece to a smaller piece and back and forth. Maybe they go from the tanks to the barges to the rail cars. But based on what I tagged, which is a very small sample size, these fish are moving. I'm not saying they're moving vast, areas of the ocean into like, I can't confirm if they're moving from, say, right off of my coast here, because the wrecks I fish are 5 to 10 miles straight east of my house. I can't confirm if they're moving from there to, say, Delaware or Virginia, Ocean City, Maryland, or up to, say, Long Island or east of there. But I can tell you the fish that I have tagged moving throughout the state. Like I said, I don't have a ton of recaptures. I only have a few. But one that I had recaptured from this January that was caught in April, so basically a year ago, moved from Barnegat Light-ish area, Barnegat Light, northern Long Beach Island, to Ocean City, Wildwood, New Jersey, in those 4 months. But what I was going to say, not to get off topic with the tagging stuff, was you asked about what I would do with the tog if it was up to me. And I think personally that it should only be one person, one bigger fish a person per day. So if you want to have that trophy fish, it's one a guy. There's certain times of the season where it's 5 fish. And I just think that's kind of a little bit, say, overkill when you want to fill a boat and you got a 6-pack, or even it's a private, just say me going out with a couple buddies. Let's say us 3 go out. We each keep 5, sometimes the fishing's good. We catch a couple, some nice fish. Is there a need for all of us to have multiple big fish? It's to me, in my eyes, I think you really want to keep those fish for their traits. That big fish, say mama bear, passing on those big fish traits to future generations. And I guess it's the fecundity, I think is the proper name, of how, say, efficient a female fish is. When they get older, they put out many more millions of eggs than, say, a recently mature female fish. And that's something that's important both with striped bass and with tog. Those bigger fish kind of need to pass on that gene pool, and the more effective spawning and the way they've survived, the survival of the fittest, pass on those genes to the future generations.
Yeah, I'm right there with, and I've been trying to tell people this for really all game fish, freshwater, saltwater. Just kind of like, again, I don't want to tell anyone like you can't keep a big fish. Like, I think you should keep that right, but I think everyone should know and understand how you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you overdo it. And I know a lot of guys, I don't know, they get excited and they overdo it for sure.
I always throw them back. I got yelled at on the one party boat.
Your fish wasn't big, Joe. It wasn't big.
Not on the party boat. I tried to throw like a roaster back, and they got pissed at me. Like, I won't name the boat, but
we didn't even have enough keepers to have dinner, and you want to throw like a 16-inch fish back.
I just don't like killing blackfish at all. I don't like it.
Well, and that's fine too. In all honesty, if you caught the fish, you should be able to throw it back. You shouldn't have let anyone bully you. I think I was part of bullying you.
I got peer pressured.
So, but I would say that, like, let's say there's a person who goes fishing one time the whole season. They want to fish their limit out, or they're going out and they're going, say, maybe once a month or something, whether it's fluke, striped bass, whatever it is. I've got nothing against people, like, don't take me the wrong way and say I'm this, recreational fisher on this high horse says no one should be able to keep any fish. That's not where I'm at. I just feel that people should be, say, stewards and really focus on their own take. And the regulations say what the regulations say. Cool. You want to follow the regs? Great. But I think people should try to be a little more, say, strict and focus on, looking at the mirror, looking back at themselves and saying, hey, how many bigger fish am I harvesting? And what do I want to pass on? And I know that people say, oh, if you throw it back, it's going to die. There's release mortality, but can guarantee that fish gets released. There's a chance of it surviving, but I guarantee if it goes in the box, it's not surviving. So to each their own, but
it ain't surviving with 2 fillets cut off of it. That's a guarantee.
I have a question I've been saving for you. I know I'm going to start a whole nother shitstorm, but I'm going to ask it. The land-based shark fishing, there's a federal no target law on those sharks. The cops are constantly breaking everyone's balls, usually on the beach, about it. You're in one of the most popular areas of the state to do that,
right.
And you're a tackle shop where everyone's buying bait to go do it.
Right.
Guy comes in asking you for advice on what to do. What do you tell him?
So this is a pretty sticky situation.
Oh, I know. That's why.
So it's a phenomenal question, right? So the way that I try to...
I'll throw myself under the bus and just admit I buy all my shark shit at your store. So I'm guilty.
All right. So just so you know, it's not illegal for me to sell shark stuff. All right. It's not illegal for you to buy shark stuff. And it's not illegal for you to go shark fishing.
Right.
Oh, okay.
In certain ways, in certain species, right? But there's also tackle that's used for different purposes. And this doesn't have to just be shark fishing. This could be striped bass versus bluefish. If they shut down, let's say, brown sharks, right? Brown sharks are prohibited species or sand tigers. And if you know that, then you catch a sand tiger or you catch a brown shark, you know the rules. You're not supposed to land them. You're not supposed to have them on dry sand. You're ready for a release. You're responsibly and having an enjoyable time fishing, going out, catching a fish. What do you know? It's a prohibited species. You catch it. You're not supposed to land it, drag it up on the high sand and start taking a million photos and molesting the thing. Release it properly, send it on its way. You're not really breaking any rules, okay? But if you're out soaking a bait and say Fish and Game walks up, hey, bud, what's going on? How you guys doing tonight? Oh, not too bad, man. Oh, what are you guys up to? We're looking for some brown sharks, officer. Well, you just broke the rule, right? Yeah. But if you say I'm looking for something to pull on my line, got nothing to do on a nice summer night. I'm enjoying the sunset. I'm enjoying the stars. Whatever. You're just kicking back.
Can you really tell them that you're just looking for something to pull on the line when you have a 12-aught circle hook on and a half a bunker?
I mean, that is a question. It's debatable, but to me, yeah, you're going fishing. They can't prevent you from fishing, and you go for rays. I can't tell you how many customers come in the shop and say they want to catch skate and dogfish, and when there's cow nose rays, they come in saying, "Oh, my son and I, we caught 30 cow nose rays last night. My arms fell off reeling them in because my kid couldn't reel them in. I had to reel them all."
And you can legally target cow nose rays?
People do it. There's no limit on them.
So you could constantly just say that you're fishing for them. I never even thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, isn't there are some shark species in the area. I know they're much rarer than the other two.
Threshers for sure. They're pretty rare off the beach, but I surf a lot, and I used to see them in the wash when we had big bunker pods in the spring. They'd be right in the waves, and I don't know why more don't get caught off the surf. The amount of people that are, say, sharking off the beach, it's become much more popular once again over the past decade. But as long as you're following the rules and not, say, stating the wrong thing, the enforcement of your intent to target is very, very difficult. And that's why if you want to dive into the striped bass stuff, people are talking about closing the fishery. Well, how do you know what they're intending to target? I get it. It's let's just say it's March 1st and striped bass fishing's, open. Great. If it's closed and it's February, well, hey, there's striped bass here. It's closed. Okay, here's a fine. But if let's just say it's closed and the regs come around, the striped bass is closed, and people are catching bluefish in April and May, fishing pencil poppers, and all of a sudden you start raising some striped bass with the blues, you can't, prevent that. They swim together, sometimes they school together. And yeah, there's not as many bluefish right now. This fall was pretty few and far between, but sometimes they're mixed in pretty well. But it all comes down to intent to target. And that's really about what you say and about what you're using. If that makes sense.
It answers my question.
It totally makes sense, but it is a very weird, gray area type of law or rule or whatever you want to call it.
So without going too far down the rabbit hole, I mentioned the striped bass thing. Another thing is with striped bass and the circle hooks, right? There's a circle hook regulation. Anytime you're fishing and you're targeting with intent to target striped bass with bait, you need an inline circle hook. Yeah. That's a coast-wide mandate.
Yeah.
So if you're fishing mullet in, say, September or October, lots of customers go up to the beach and fish mullet because the mullet runs on. They fish a mullet rig, which is a classic skewer rig. It's got a float. It's got this wire skewer, and then it's got a fang hook, a double fang. Some people call them frog hooks. Okay. And that hook's removable. You slide the mullet on that skewer, and then you put the hook back on. You slide the bait down so one of the barbs is in the tail. Bluefish come up and they kill them. It's just one of the best baits to use if you don't want to fish lures and you just want to cast and soak a bait. Those mullet rigs are technically in violation, of if somebody walks up and says, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm striped bass fishing I'm fishing mullet for striped bass." That mullet rig is in violation. So that's just word to the wise. Pay attention if you're going to try to fish for stripers in the fall with mullet.
I want to ask this question now because no one's ever touched on this topic ever on the show. Crabbing. How popular is crabbing still in New Jersey, and do you guys sell a lot of crabbing stuff?
Yeah, we sell a ton of crabbing stuff. We're located, for anybody who doesn't know, we're on Long Beach Island. We're right at Ship Bottom, ready to come over the bridges. Basically, exit 63 off the Parkway. You take Route 72 east. You go over all the bridges, and then after the first traffic light, we're on the right-hand side. When you go over those bridges, you're going over Barnegat Bay, which Barnegat Bay basically runs from where I'm at all the way north up to Bayhead, which goes through the Point Pleasant Canal. And then south of me, we've got Little Egg Harbor, they call it Manahawkin Bay, Little Egg, and then that goes down to Great Bay. Basically, a lot of the west side of the bay is undeveloped for the most part. If you come down to, say, Long Beach Island area, there are a couple little patches of houses, but there's awesome crabbing throughout the bay, Barnegat Bay, Manahawkin Bay, Great Bay. We can get you dialed in, say from a shop or as a team. We can get you dialed in catching crabs, say off of land, strictly land-based, but also if you had a boat, there's awesome crabbing. You can go with a kayak, paddleboard. It really depends on what you want to do, how you want to do it. If it's like a family kind of session, end of a bulkhead's good. I will say
crabbing's always been like such a New Jersey family activity. No one ever talks about it too much, though. Like no one talks about crabbing that often.
We've had a pretty good run this past season. Wasn't bad. I could say a few years ago was poor, but last few years it hasn't been bad. The west side of the bay is better than the east side. And when I say east side, that's basically if you were to come to LBI and you were to fish off a bulkhead, you'd be fishing off the east side of the bay. And just think about it. There's a long street. Every street has a bulkhead for the most part that's public. Those spots kind of get picked out. The super shallow areas aren't the best. You get a deeper area with a little moving water, some docks, say the bridges, the boat ramps. There's some really good crabbing spots. But for the most part, those areas get picked out by the middle of the summer. And then the west side of the bay or open bay is the better spots to be. Some people, will put pots out. You get a crab pot license from the state. I think it's $2 or $3. You can put a couple pots out. It's good.
Cheap.
Yeah. Good fun.
Is it still 4.5 inches? I haven't crabbed in forever. It's still 4.5. That's cool. I should go crabbing. Yeah, and I think if you get a shedder, it's 3.5. I think you've got to double check that. But I think a shedder is either 3.5 or 4, and I think a softie is 3. But there's a couple different sizes if it's shedding. And you're supposed to throw back the females, that have eggs. I throw back all the females personally, but you want to try to throw back the ones that have that spongy kind of growth, the egg sac growing down there. Yeah.
Let me ask you, since we're on the topic of crabs, I didn't know he was going to go here, but now I'm curious because I've heard so many different things, and I only do it like when I'm on vacation. So you're talking maybe once a year. And what is there a specific? Do you want to go on high tide, low tide, or does it depend on something else? And is there
a
bait that's better than all other baits? Because I always just go get the cheapest like chicken thighs from the grocery store, and I go at like high tide. I try to hit it right before and right after high tide.
How are you helping the local bait shops out by buying chicken?
Well, the chickens, I think it's really evolved from the Chesapeake Bay. Because down the Chesapeake Bay, you got Purdue and you got Tyson, the two massive chicken guys in the industry, and they're being down there. I believe I don't know anything about the Chesapeake Bay, first off, but I believe that a lot of that's come from down there, being that the local people in that area in Chesapeake Bay has always been awesome crabbing. I think even the commercial guys use chicken down there. I'm not positive, but I've always used bunker. I've always tried to stay away from the whole salmonella thing. You're dealing with raw chicken. You're probably having a few cocktails. At least it's summertime. It's hot. You're drinking water. You're probably having a snack or two while you're on the dock or in a boat or a kayak. The last thing I want to deal with is raw chicken and salmonella. So I've never went the raw chicken route. I know there's plenty of people that use it. To each their own. I catch a ton of crabs on bunker. That's what I do. I personally use hand lines or I use topless traps. And I like a moving tide. A lot of times these crabs are going to flow in the tide. One thing I can tell you can do is go with just a net and a light at night, walk around docks, go to public docks. You don't be trespassing people's backyards. But I can promise you that you'll get some big jimmies walking around these docks, just shining a flashlight, just a little handheld torch light, and just going around and shining around, and you'll see them, and you just net them up, scoop them in, and shake them into a bucket. But to go back to what I like to do is I like to use topless traps. If anybody's not familiar with the topless trap, it's basically a 4-door crab trap that when it folds down, it lays flat, and there's only these bars that come up.
Yeah.
Right. And I have each one with a small float and about, 10 foot of line. What I do is I have them in a stack on my boat, and I just go around, you bait one up, toss it in, you keep going, tossing them, and you do a big circle, and you come back around, you just grab a gaff, and you grab the buoy, you pull them in, you shake them, throw the trap right back out, and keep on going, buoy to buoy. What I'll do sometimes is I'll soak them, and then I'll go towards, say, a creek that's kind of narrowing up. A lot of these crabs like to go up these creeks where it started to get sort of brackish, where that salinity is starting to come down. You're starting to go from, say, saltwater to brackish water. I found that those areas, some of those ponds, and where that transition is much, much better than the open bay at times. I don't spend the entire summers crabbing, so I can't say like, June is much better than July. But I will say normally there's a moon and there's a shed, and that's normally the time of, I want to say June. You should probably get a crabbing expert on, but around then is when I try to get shedders, and I use them for fluke baits, and I catch some of my biggest fluke in the bay with the shedder crab, where they're putting off their pheromones, and it's like by far the best bait. I mean, I use gulp a lot, but I put my gulp away when it's shedder that week around that moon. It's late June, I catch some hogs. I've caught 10, 11, 12-pound fluke in the bay, Barnegat Bay, with a chunk of shedder crab on a jig head. It seems like the kookiest thing, a plain jig head with a chunk of shedder crab, but it's it, man.
Like tog fishing.
That's awesome.
Basically. And I put a teaser hook above it, a small number 2 hook, octopus, and you put a big chubby live minnow, just hook him right through the lips, and he swims about 12 inches, 18 inches up above that shedder crab. But most of the bigger fluke are on the crab and not on the minnow. But I catch a lot of fluke on minnows too.
I mean, honestly, dude, nothing anyone tells me in the fishing world anymore even sounds crazy to me. Joe, the other day when you missed the ice fishing, John's buddy showed up and started fishing with. He took a bag out of his pocket and he had it filled with like ham, like just like grocery store like ham, and he started tipping his jigs with ham, and he outfished all of us.
That's
I'm
awesome.
not even kidding. Like if someone tells me something weird, I'm like, I believe it, and I will try it at some point, no matter what. Like I believe it. And what you said isn't even that weird.
A winter flounder, and we used to use corn. You put a little corn bead, a little yellow piece of corn on. It was great.
All right, I got one last question for you.
This is like your third question in a row. Do I get one or no?
No, you get none.
All right.
You personally yourself, growing up, your father runs this successful tackle shop. It's it's been a scary time for tackle shops. We've lost a lot of them over the past maybe 10 years. When you know that your father's like stepping down and you're going to have to take that store over, what is that like? Like what you're facing?
That's a loaded question. So fortunately, my dad jumped into the business in the mid 80s. And when he did that, he tried to make a diversified tackle shop. And what I mean by that is we're not focused then and now, we're not focused on one species. If striped bass gets closed, or say the fluke season gets cut, all of our eggs aren't in one basket. Like there's some shops probably around the state that are focused more so on one species than another. And what we kind of do is we deal with surf fishing. We do, like you mentioned, crabbing, say land-based anglers that are coming to Long Beach Island, say maybe it's a weekend warrior, it's a one-time tourist. Maybe they're renting a house for a week in the summertime and they're like, what are we going to do today? And, I saw this guy catching kingfish off the beach today. Let's go kingfishing. So we sell a lot of different things, but we also deal with offshore tuna fishing. We supply some stuff to the commercial fishermen that run out of Barnegat Light. It's one of the largest ports in the state. So we're pretty diversified with recreational anglers, hardcore, say, big game anglers, light tackle anglers. We dipped and dabbled a little bit of fly fishing. I run fly charters. We're open year round. So people that are like right now, we're actually kind of busy. Customers are going on vacation. A guy came in, spooled up some reels today. We're doing reel service. Came in today. He's going on to Florida for the next couple of months. So
you do fly charters?
I do. I'm one of the only fly captains in the area. Yeah.
Saltwater?
Yes, sir. Yep.
No shit.
Yeah, weak fish and mostly striped bass. If the bluefish is good, it's good.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, for sure. And then I started running charters to try to, help people out. But I got involved doing the fish reports. Fishing LBI was handed off to me when I was in college. My dad started the website in 1997. So if you look at some of these massive e-commerce tackle businesses, we were actually online around the same time or before them. You can go look it up, do who is domain registry lookup. You can type in fishersandtechworks.com. We went live in April 1997, which was way before its time. We used to have a catalog back in the day. Certain things have happened over the years, certain investments, certain, you put money in the website, you put money in a print catalog, or you put money in the inventory. It's all really, it's how business rolls. It's about what you want to invest in and how you want to, say, protect your investments and do different things. But I would just say that the fishing industry is strong. I would say that there are times that are changing. I'd say there's definitely some tackle shops that might not be well positioned, say yesterday or today or tomorrow. But I think that they can maybe shift gears, try to call on, say, that local demand they have. If they don't have local demand, then maybe it's location. We have a big advantage where we're at. Location is very important to us.
You guys do have a nice location. I mean, you can't miss that shop. You can't even get on the island without. It's in the perfect spot.
So that's why my dad bought the business. My grandfather talked him into it. He said, it's location, location, location. If this business goes under tackle wise, it's a great location for another business. And my dad loved to fish, but he wasn't a fisherman. He's an electrical engineer working for Phillips. He wasn't a fisherman. So in the 80s, when it came about, he jumped in there as an investment for the real estate. My grandfather ran a lot of businesses. He was in the banking business, but he said, look, this is where you want to be. This is what you want to do. You already have a beach house on LBI. He's like, they were trying to send him off to Belgium. Phillips was. He said, jump in here. Let's go. So he did. And that's where I was kind of born and raised, living on top of the shop. But to get more to like suggestions for other tackle shops, because I don't want to see any shops go out of business. I work, very closely with Chamber of Commerce and other tackle shops in my area, with the Chamber of Commerce and the Long Beach Island Surf Fishing Classic. We just had our 70th anniversary tournament, just wrapped up in December. We're already planning this 71st, which is coming up in September. Other tackle shops should jump on social media. They got to have an e-commerce site. You got to get with the times. I know it's challenging. It's like, I feel like I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, but I'm doing.
Well, you do have, I will say, compared to most other like shops and stuff, you have a massive social media following. It's really big. Your Instagram's over 30,000 followers, which is a lot for a New Jersey tackle shop to have.
Yeah, I tried to. I mean, I appreciate you saying that, and I guess you're following. So thank you to everybody who follows us. I mean, I'd say that's probably.
People think we don't do homework, but we actually do.
Yeah,
a little bit.
There's a lot that goes into it. Whether it's just providing information, like today's day. People don't like on opening day. I don't know how it is freshwater for you guys. Maybe another shop would say differently, but opening day of striped bass or opening day of, say, winter flounder or fluke isn't just like this gangbusters day anymore where people are coming down with boats one after the other at the boat ramps. There's not a line out the yin yang, and it's not, just mayhem like it used to be. When I remember when I was a kid, like there's hardly any boat rentals left anymore. So like to me, it's all about information. It's about reports. It's about people communicating with their friends in their community and getting together to go fishing, to go with their brother, their neighbor, whatever it may be. And without reports, it's hard for people to muster up the courage or muster up the initiative or the motivation to go. So that's something I've been doing for a while with fishinglbi.com. That's my fishing report blog. I also do the YouTube videos. I try to do them every couple of days, once a week during the season.
And that's like the whole thing with social media in general. I feel like sometimes guys give us a hard time, like for posting a picture of fish, and they start busting your balls. Like you're like, oh, you're bragging about a fish that isn't even that big. I'm like, dude, I'm not posting to brag about anything. I don't give a shit what you think. I'm posting this because when I go online and I'm looking through other people's stuff, their fishing reports and their fishing pictures, that's motivating me. I get to see what's around, what's happening. I'm assuming it's motivating other people because it's motivating me.
Right.
And I want to contribute in the same way. That's why I'm posting pictures. I just want to be part of this community. I want to help motivate people to keep this, keep the fishing world going. I mean,
keep the dream alive, man.
Yeah, like people like to hide their spots and stuff. That's fine. We don't, you don't have to post and say where you are or anything like that. Just the picture itself, just a picture of it. Look, look at this fish I caught in New Jersey. It's beautiful. It's big. It's rare. Whatever it is about it. If it's just a normal fish, like it's just a kind of motivation to give something for people to look at. And I don't know. Yeah, I think it's crazy that people have almost kind of vilified. A lot of people have vilified social media and fishing reports that go on there. Someone posts a picture that's got a tree that they recognized in the background, and they're like, "Oh, you're blowing up the spot!" Like, dude, nobody recognizes the tree except the 5 guys that fished there already. Like, why are we even talking about this?
It's a pretty touchy situation, touchy topic for sure.
Is. Yeah, it triggers people quickly.
Yeah, if you take a look at the videos that I put up, the reports, the reports that I share, it's always to protect as best I can locations, and it's just the way I've done it from day one. It's if I said, hey, everybody, they're on street A or street B, there'd be a bunch of people there, and all of a sudden the fish swim, But social media has definitely changed the game of fishing by a long shot. It's tremendous how things have changed just in the last few years, but I'll agree with you, Chris. What you said about, everybody's trying to one up somebody. It's just go out and have some fun, man. You want to share the love and share a photo of a stoked picture. That's what life's about. Going to have fun, catching fish with friends, sharing it. Just like you text a friend, throw it on Instagram, throw it on Facebook, wherever, the groups.
There's a right way to do it. There's this line that you can walk, and it's not hard to walk that line without going over it, I don't think. And I think that's what you have to do. You walk this line, you stay on the right side of it, and that's the right way to do it. But I
think the guys that want to one up you should go join a tournament. That's what the tournament's all about, right? Put the money on the line and see what you win, man. Have at it.
And with the local shops, everyone's local shop with the social media, a lot, like you said, a lot of shops haven't taken advantage of that. You have. We try to help shops, these shops that have just started a social media or whatever. Your social media is bigger than ours, so we can't really help you with that. But
it's good to network. You know what I mean? It's good to network. You guys throw something up, you're tagging me, I repost it, or one of my, my guys, because I have a team of guys that work for me. It's not just all me. I'm on the computer here all day. I'm trying to fish every once in a while. I got a family to raise. It's like
you're doing a lot of stuff, man.
But yeah, it's all about the networking and sharing and communicating and just kind of building out that base is really what it comes down to. And I mean, all the shops out there should be somewhat friends with each other, unless there's some kind of cutthroat, like somebody screwed somebody. I don't see why shops. Yeah. We're all in the same party. We're all fighting against, for the most part, in my opinion, Dick's, Walmart, Amazon. I mean, it's independents versus the conglomerates, and every independent shop should be on the same page to say, let's promote fishing, let's promote the area, let's promote New Jersey, let's promote, this species or that species. Let's get people involved in fishing, whether they're, out of the game, they quote unquote retired from it, and they missed out for a few years, or they're new to it. And COVID's helped a little bit, but.
And to anyone thinking like, but I could save a couple of bucks going to Dick's, I think Old School Outdoors, an old tackle shop that we had on here a little while ago, said it really well. Basically, he said, well, when you talk about a bigger store like that, if fishing falls out of popularity and all of a sudden their fishing department isn't making a profit anymore, that department now sells clothes and like tennis gear and golf gear. You know what I mean? Like they're done with it. They don't care. Whereas the local shop, that they're part of your community. They're part of your fishing community. Yeah. And I mean, look at Dick's with the hunting, right, Joe? Where's Dick's hunting?
They're in.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Right. So
completely gone.
Yeah, I would say one thing that you guys might not know, but the tackle industry has very thin margins. So someone who has a really short season, I don't know any shops that only have, say, a 1 month or 2 month season, but they have to make their money in that small window. But everybody's like, oh, the prices are so expensive. A lot of my prices are the same thing as Dick's. They have their gulp sale. Well, I have my own gulp sale too, and we're all buying it for a very similar price. I mean, maybe a super small shop is buying it from distribution, and they're getting an extra 10% tacked on. They're losing that margin, or they have to raise their price by 10%. But for the most part, if people are buying it at the right time, sourcing it properly, they should be able to be very competitive price wise. And to me, if I'm selling something, a pack of gulp for $7.99 and Dick's is selling it for $7.99, and there's a saltwater customer going to Dick's to buy it there because they think it's cheaper, and they're not getting, say, the quality service and, say, experience that they should be getting at a, say, independent tackle shop that somebody actually fishes and who was just fishing this morning or the day before, can actually help them catch fish. Like, buying a pack of gulp and a jig is one thing, but getting somebody to help you catch a fluke or better your fluking or better your togging ability by asking questions and doing a quick little 1 minute interaction or an hour, dissertation. Sometimes it's tremendous, the value.
No, just the little information from talking to pretty much any shop owner or anyone who works at the shop, just that little 1-2 minute interaction. If you take advantage of it when you're checking out and you talk to them, that's worth, I mean, that's priceless a lot of the times. I've gotten priceless information from that. You can't buy that.
It's not my business, obviously, but you have to be doing some of this out of love for it, because I'm sure you could knock that tackle shop down and put a strip club there that'll do much better than a bait shop. I mean,
I'll tell you right now, a coffee shop, man, would be probably,
there you go,
probably 80x for sure.
You could sell croissants and espressos
for sure.
Do I have time to ask him one more question? I really wanted to ask him this one question.
All right, I'll allow it.
All right, so Greg, just because it's a totally different topic again, I'm changing.
He's going to be back on here another 8 times anyway, because he does saltwater fly fishing is something that I've always wanted to.
I really, honest to God, I hope you do come back many times. I think you're a super knowledgeable guy. I love talking to you about all this stuff. And that's why I want to ask you just this one last question, because I really respect your opinions on all this stuff. So we had Menhaden Defenders on a couple episodes ago, and it seemed like a pretty straightforward topic where we wanted to defend the bunker schools from this Omega protein company that had all these really advanced ways of netting all these bunker at the same time, and were supposedly wiping out big portions of them at a time, and it was affecting the striped bass fisheries where they were doing that. So when we posted this episode, like I said, I thought it was pretty straightforward. Like, oh yeah, recreational anglers will all be against letting these guys just wipe the bunker out in giant portions. But instead, we were met with like a 50-50 split of guys like trying to bash defending this and defending it. Like it was split 50-50. So I just want you know what I'm talking about, right?
Commercial fishing's a touchy subject.
Right.
But I was very clear when Paul was on. I specifically said, I said, this isn't about like the guys netting bunker to use for like the lobster traps and netting bunker to sell for bait shops. And he said, no, that's not what this is about. It was very specifically about this Canadian company or whatever coming down and the way that they were able to take so many bunker at the same time. And so that's why I was kind of surprised that it was met with like a 50-50 split of like people were fighting over it. Like,
well, they should be. It's been a debate going on for quite some time. I mean, I'm going to say that the Omega, the reduction fleet, taking the bunker in massive quantities, say regional depletion is what the technical terms would be, is detrimental to the fishery, right? We have fish that are migrating through the area because striped bass migrate. We're mostly talking about striped bass and bunker. Yeah, there's been tuna on these bunker recently, which is somewhat of a newer trend, and there's sharks in the bunker and stuff like that. But for the most part, Omega owns, like, I want to say 98% of the coastwide stock, one company, and they're politically tangled, and the issue is they deplete the resource in the Chesapeake Bay and they deplete the resource along the coast. And then why are they coming from Reedsville, Virginia? You go look at it on a map. They're coming down the bay around and all the way up here to fish for bunker. It's because they beat up their own home waters.
They keep moving. They keep moving more north and more north to deplete it more.
Right. So I will say this past spring, we had a pretty tough time getting bunker as a shop. We buy from a local gill netter who's not allowed to catch that many pounds a day. And local cast netters also, they're in small boats. They're not able to catch that much a day. Those guys could go their entire lives catching their daily limits, and they'll never reach what one of these boats catches in one, say, day. We're talking metric tons, where what I'm buying from, a cast netter or gill netter is 100 pounds here, 500 pounds there. On 4th of July weekend or Memorial Day weekend, when it's like fishing's popping and everybody wants bunker, maybe I get 1,000 pounds or 1,500 pounds, from a couple different sources to a total of 1,500 pounds for the weekend. But the issue that you're running into is a little bit about commercial fishing and, a local gill netter, or say Lunds, a local purse seiner out of, say, Cape May, Lunds. Sometimes they come up to Barnegat Light. People see that boat working off, say, Barnegat Light, and they're like, "Oh, the Omega fleet's here." No, it's Lunds, and anybody who knows Lunds is they're commercial fishing. Like, if I need to go buy a flat of frozen bunker at a good price, I'm going to Lunds. You mentioned a lobster guy, maybe a conch, a potter who wants some bait for his conch pots, who might also be getting white leggers and some other baits, they might want for tog. He's getting his bunker from Lunds more than likely. They're purse seining these baits. They're barrel bunker. They're not top quality bunker that you'd be coming in the shop looking for, say, hook baits to go chunk off for striped bass on the beach, or, cast netters really have that quality. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but you mentioned Paul, he's pro wind, and he's also in the bunker Menhaden Defenders. So there may be some tangled up areas with just the topic of Paul being, okay, do we want to support Paul because he's fighting for the rights of bunker and what they're doing there, and fighting, for pro wind Paul. And, I know Paul, and we've had debates and conversations many times. And that might be something that is a little bit, say, tangled up that you might not know in the background, where, Paul's pro wind and he's pushing as an advocate for the offshore wind industry, but then he's also trying to protect bunker. And I'll just go out there and say it. You want to get into this, say, topic of changing fish migrations because of the added structure of offshore turbines. What happens if bunker starts staying further offshore on these, say, lease areas more often? Well, guess what? The bunker's staying out there. The fish are probably going to stay out there too. And we just had a report this year, I think it was this year, that said there's an abundance of bunker offshore. It just wasn't inshore. So there's local changes. You get a lot of rain. It flushes out those tributaries and those rivers and the bays. The salinity drops, right? It gets all that rainwater flushes out. You get heavy rains in the spring. You start getting all sorts of runoff that you don't need. Next thing you know, all that bunker is not staying up the rivers where it should be. It's staying offshore. Is that the reason? Possibly. I don't want to point fingers, but regional depletion is a massive issue. Preventing that and trying to keep those purse seiners offshore and let them, fly their planes and use their heavy advanced equipment, advanced fishing techniques, keep them offshore or out of the, say, our area, keep them down where they belong, is one thing. But I would love to see their quota cut by 10%, just because 10% is a massive number in the numbers that they work with. We really need more bunker filter in our waters.
So, you kind of did explain. I mean, so basically there's probably some confusion of not separating this very specific reduction fleet with these local netter guys, which I tried to be very clear because I saw that coming and I tried to be very clear about that. People just didn't get it, I guess. But also the whole political thing with the if someone supports one thing someone doesn't like and another thing that they do like, they tend to ignore the one thing or the other and just take it to the person. So I didn't know that.
Right.
I didn't know Paul was pro wind.
Well,
so that makes a lot of
fine.
sense.
I got nothing against him. It was pro wind. But one thing that also might be missing is, like, take your omega 3 fatty acid, the fish pills. Where's that stuff coming from? And like some of this feed that they're feeding these chickens, I don't know the whole industry inside and out, but they extract the oil and then they have like this, I'll say, material left over from the fish. Like they use it for fish meal. They use it for fish farming. They use it for chickens, for Purdue. And you've got a lot of different uses for the bunker. And should anybody wants to learn more about bunker, should read the book. I forget who the author is, Most Important Fish in the Sea. One little fish that starts out small in the little tributaries and grows into a bigger, bait. They filter millions and millions of gallons. I think it's a day. They're very important, especially with water issues that we've got going on right now that affect all the fisheries.
Would it be a hard fish to farm raise in gigantic pens like they do with some other species?
I bet you it would.
I mentioned the topic. This is probably another podcast, but I mentioned the topic just to talk about. I wanted to know. Well, when you talk about striped bass, they brought striped bass from the Navesink River, say Monmouth County striped bass from New Jersey, in train cars and put them in the San Francisco Bay and created a very vibrant striped bass fishery in California. Now, introducing new fish to an ecosystem is dangerous. These blue catfish down in Chesapeake Bay, the state introduced them to be a fast-growing game fish to help out. Well, next thing you know, floods, these freshwater fish enter the broader ecosystem, and now they're in the lower bay, and they're competing with striped bass. They're out feeding, they're outgrowing, they eat up all the baby striped bass. It's one topic that people are talking about. But you start bringing this farm-raised or hatchery stuff. I don't know anything about hatcheries of freshwater with trout and all that. I know it's popular. But it's called a put and take fishery. Like you raise, let's say 100,000 fish. Well, now you can take 100,000 fish. Right now, the the stock is not at that low of a number crisis to say we need to do that. I was yelled at when I brought the topic up to say, hey, is there any successful stocking programs? Because North Carolina doesn't have striped bass anymore. Is that climate? What are the reasons behind it? Is it that shift north? They've had some they've had some stocking programs that were not as successful. I'm not an expert on the stocking, but I just started reading into this stuff, say more in the last, year or so. Because you look at the fishery of striped bass, you say, oh, the whole issue is recruitment. Well, how do we fix recruitment? Right? The fishery management people don't have the ability to change certain things. Certain things are in their toolbox. Certain things are not. So that's why I brought up this topic. I shouldn't say I brought it up, but I questioned. I tried to get some information on stocking of striped bass, and I was like crucified over like, whoa, that's dangerous. You're introducing, say, a lesser gene to that pool, like we mentioned earlier in the conversation here. We want those strong genes, if the strongest, to survive and to carry on. The fish that, say, spawned in the poorest environmental conditions that did succeed, we need those guys to keep growing and passing on those traits in, say, the years and decades to come. Yeah. So hopefully I'll touch on a little bit of that.
Well, Greg, obviously we're going to have you on here another 10 times for more episodes. But we have to go watch football, and we've had you here for over an hour already. But I want to thank you so much. And
absolutely.
Do you want to just plug your social medias and your shop before you go?
Yeah, one more time. So if my name's Greg Cudnik, captain, master captain out of Barnegat Light. I run Fish Head Charters, which is a light tackle guide service, and I'm also the general manager at Fisherman's headquarters. You can check me out. Instagram, Facebook, fishinglbi.com is my fish report blog. If you looked up fishermansheadquarters.com, that's the main business. If you're looking for, say, some tackle now or for spring, summer, fall, whenever, check us out on there. We got a pretty robust e-commerce site. Find anything from swivels to hooks. We don't do much freshwater stuff, but there are some, say, crossovers things, mostly saltwater tackle shop based in Central Jersey. You can stop by and visit us. We're open 7 days a week, all year long. And we're doing a number of shows, say, over the show season. I do some of the local fishing clubs that support the local high schools. This Sunday, we're at Lacey Township. Lacey Township Fishing Club's doing one. In February, I guess there's Southern Regional does one. Surf Days up at Brookdale Community College. That's from the Jersey Surfcasters. That's a surf show. And also do the Saltwater Expos, which is in Edison, say, mid-March. So anyone wants to, say, is out of town, wants to check us out at those events, stop by, say hello. Meet me, meet the team, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere in between. Appreciate the support.
Awesome. And if someone's following your social media, they'll get updates on like any shows you guys are going to be at and all that kind of stuff. And I'll also, if anyone's listening and isn't following Fisherman's headquarters, you're missing out for sure, because I don't know if you do this just for the holiday season, but you were posting a lot of like really nice deals on stuff that you had in the shop that you were selling and stuff like that. Yeah, so we
do, if someone wants to follow us on eBay too, we do some promotional stuff on eBay to kind of clear out, say, overstock. Our shop's really got 10 pounds of tackle in a 1 pound bag. And because fishing's so trendy, we got to move the slow moving stuff. And I mean, I've got way too much, say, dead inventory. And to me, it's dead because it's not moving. But to somebody else, it's like, oh, that's a score. So I try to do some of those promotions on whether it's a hot product, maybe it's a slow seller, maybe it's dead meat, maybe it's we're getting rid of this lineup, but we have a few weird sizes that are still left around. We do like sort of flash sales or fire sales on our Instagram stories. And we also do some sales on our eBay page. So if anyone wants to look for some tackle sales, check those out for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd definitely recommend that.
Greg, thank you so much, and I'll be probably booking a saltwater fly fishing trip for myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got one customer right away. I saw it in his eyes.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, inviting me on, and bummer the first go around didn't work out, but stoked to be back for round 2, and hopefully you guys want to chat about some other things in the future.
Awesome. Greg from Fisherman's headquarters, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, guys. Go Birds.
Take care, bud.
All right. So that was pretty cool. Hopefully, we do get him back on, because he is involved in so many different facets of the outdoor world.
As
Sounds
as
like
long
we
as
struck a
this
nerve when
recorded,
we.
as
It
long as
sounds
this
like we.
recorded this time, I think he'll
I
come
think
back on. He
But
does.
I think we struck a nerve with him when we mentioned Paul. It seems like there's some feud there between them.
Well, no, I don't think it's a feud, but I mean, it's, it is what it is. There's one thing that they agree with, and there's another thing that they don't agree with. And
I
it's
didn't know anyone agreed with that shit.
I didn't know either, and I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe Paul kind of
We
figured
might have to
wouldn't
have
agree
Paul
on
back
it.
on now and see, like, why do you agree with this craziness? But whatever. We will be back next week. Who is the guest next week?
My calendar ran out, and I don't have a new one. But
right,
we got. I could check his last name, but it's Matt is the first name.
Oh
and
yeah, the guy who
makes
makes
the hair jigs.
Okay.
Give me
So
one
we're going to talk
second.
hair jigs with lure maker Matt, and he sent us a bundle of stuff. He makes buzz baits, spinner baits, but it seems like the hair jigs we'll never have to buy one ever again with the amount he sent to us.
Yeah, did he sent a lot, huh?
A lot. It's hair jigs for life.
Yeah, so this is one of those situations where, and we say it all the time, like, right, anyone can come on. Like, if you want to come on the show, if you want to talk about something, if you make something in the outdoors world, if you do something cool in the outdoors world and you want people to know about it, reach out to us. We can only reach out to so many people at a time. We can't get to everyone. We want people to come to us too. This is an example of this. I actually don't even have Matt's last name. I didn't write it down.
I think it's
his name was
Izzy.
Matt. He introduced
like
himself.
IZZI or IZZY, Matt Izzy. I don't know. He's nice. So I had a conversation with him. So yeah, next week's episode we're going to talk about hair jigs. We haven't talked about it. It's something people don't talk about too much. Very versatile lure though that could be used for a lot of different things. And one of Andy Still's favorites.
Yeah, it's one of those lures that is so old school that it works, but you also see it and you're like, I'm going to use something else, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the times.
But you could use it for anything. Ice fishing,
really
bass fishing,
just
whatever.
About anything if you get the right size. And yeah, it's so versatile and it works. But it's like it's this overlooked lure, I guess, because social. I don't know. We'll talk to him about it and we'll see.
All right, so we will be back next week. Hopefully everyone has a safe ice fishing weekend coming up, and goodbye and good night.
Suffer, but don't suffer too much. Fall through the ice. That would be the ultimate suffering.